Hey traders and investors, checking in on the cannabis space. So we had a wild end of the week with a little bit of a news pop and a pump. We're going to see if this move can keep its gains into next week or whether it's going to be another pump and dump, which we've seen many times. I'll go over a handful of chart setups, and then at the end, I will go over some trade review and show the setups and day trading that I was doing today. So TLRY is the leader, and again, going to talk a bit generalized about the space, and this is coming from a full-time trader, so just be aware that is who I am and that is my perspective and where it's coming from. And we clearly see that the trading opportunity on short-term moves is in TLRY, and it's in SNDL and it's in some other names, but it has nothing to do with fundamentals. More and more people, I think, more and more people that watch these videos are realizing what a giant game this is. And if you're looking multiple years out, sure, fundamentals are going to come into play. But this sector right now, fundamentals is not the place to be because number one, you've got the cannabis names or the Canadian names that have just vastly disappointed and have been terrible investments due to their fundamental performance. And you've got the US names where they're restricted from uplisting. They're on the OTC. It doesn't matter how good the company is. If you can't be on a higher listed exchange, you're not going to get the dollar volume. You're not going to get the attention from institutions and hedge funds and significant traders. And again, you just look at the dollar volume on TLRY, and the dollar volume today is an insane amount, $2.5 billion traded or something stupid like that, where MSOS on a big day is looking at $60 million traded. It's a night and day difference. It's a video game. It's a video game with flashing numbers, and in my opinion, the more we detach from the long-term fundamental mindset, the better off we'll be. When US uplists, sure, that'll open the gates for fundamentals to matter more. But until that happens, just time and time again, we get shown this example. Again, we're going to the names. You know, why are these Canadian names pumping on US-centered news? Because that's where the liquidity is. And professional traders like myself don't care about the stories. They don't care about the fundamentals. If you're going to give me a 40% pump, I mean, how much has it been now? 60% pump, whatever it is, a 2-day pump of 50% plus, we're going to go there. And I don't care what's on the shelves in Trulieve stores. So again, just want to give the mindset that that is where I stand with all of my analysis in this space. And I know a lot of people are holding out for long-term US cannabis, and it may work out. And again, it's also the fact that I put in so much effort into being able to capitalize on short-term moves like this and understand and learn the intricacies of being able to play this game. So looking at TLRY, I've been trading it very significantly over the last 2 days, just very active and mostly bullish, couple short attempts, nothing notable, but I'll go over at the end of this video some specifics, just like I did in the stock market video that I put out yesterday. But the bulls closed strong, and they closed up at the high of the day, and it was a very impressive recovery. And we had a pullback. We knew anything above the low of yesterday is an hourly high or low. It's just a question of how much of this move are we going to give back on the morning with the gap up profit taking? And the answer was not a huge amount, 45% retracement, which generally would have me looking for a potential lower high. But of course, on a name like this, with the hype and momentum and the pressure that's being put on shorts, that increases probabilities that a 45% retracement can see continuation. And again, we just know the sector is so beat down, so we know there's a ton of shorts. And we also know that every time the sector pumps, there's a new wave of shorts looking to pile in because we've seen this so many times. And in the past, if the past 6 times, every time you pump, it's been a great short entry opportunity, shorts are going to keep doing it until it stops working. And I talked a little bit in the video yesterday. In my opinion, the move up on Wednesday was an intentional bear trap, and it was just a thing of beauty. And looking back at it now in hindsight, everybody's wondering, why is the cannabis space pumping after hours? The broader market opened lower on Thursday morning, and the entire Canadian cannabis space gapped up because it got run up in extended hours. So in my opinion, what that was bulls looking and saying, all right, let's spend this amount of money in extended hours, let's shoot this price up, and let's hang a juicy steak for the bears and say, come and get it, bears. We got no news. We're gapping up on no news. Why in the world is that happening? Of course, bears are going to run and jump on that. And they did. And they had a great day. And they got confident and said, all right, we're closing at the low of the day. I just got another great short entry. At that point in time, we had just bounced 31% off the low. All right, let's get in. We're looking bearish on the market. The market's about to roll over back to our fear lows. I got my bearish cannabis position. And I believe that the bulls that set this trap did know about news in advance. And so when the news comes out after we double bottom, so we hold the low of Wednesday on Thursday morning. So that means when the news comes out, part of this move higher is a bunch of shorts from Wednesday being trapped and being forced to cover. So it's a ton of longs buying at the ask and running it up, but it's forcing those shorts to buy it at the ask as well. And with the move that we saw today on TLRY, anybody that has shorted TLRY in the last 4 months is underwater. That's a lot of shorts being quickly, and by quickly, I mean within 2 days, being flipped into red positions. So it's just a massive rebalancing where everybody gets to one side of the boat, everybody's short, everybody's bearish, and then the tables flip, the boat flips, and you get this short squeeze move. The question we have is this sustainable? Is this the bottom, or are we going to fade and give it back? And today was a big vote of confidence. At least the top's not set yet. And we had CNBC with a little bit of coverage. We've got the vote on the House floor on Monday. Bears are going to be looking for it to be a sell the news event. So we know that's a possibility to be keeping an eye out for as well. But I'm just going to take it one day at a time and watch the hourly uptrend and also watch the broader market, because the broader market is a massive factor here. If the S&P 500 has found its low, and again, I know all you fundamental people are going to say rates and inflation and bonds and all this, but the S&P 500 right now is currently, SPY is currently $28, less than $28 from an all-time high. And if we were going to drop down and break our recent low, we would need to drop $43. So we're closer to an all-time high than our fear lows. And I'm not ruling out that this is a 2-month bull flag and then we're going to see all-time highs in a month. I'm not ruling that out. And we're also seeing, the fact that, number one, the 5-year yield, whatever the US 10-year, is it the 10-year? One of these bonds. I've never made a trading decision based on bonds in my entire life. I've been trading 11 years. So I'm interested in the narrative of what social media is talking about, but I don't care at all. It's price action for me on charts. But there's a lot of people looking at this and saying, oh, the stock market bounce is wrong because bonds are telling us what's going on. Meanwhile, I look at this and say, stock markets are going up while bonds are exploding. Stock markets are going up while the probability that the Fed is going to hike 50 basis points in the FOMC meeting in May, that probability has increased every single day for the entirety of this past week. And the stock market keeps holding on just fine. So I am absolutely keeping all-time highs on the table. And how that relates to the sector is if our fear low is in, and if this sentiment shift is going to continue baffling bears who are looking at bonds and not understanding why the stock market is continuing to go up, it's just catching a ton of bears offside. And if it continues to do so, and if our low is set, then I believe our low in the cannabis sector is set as well. And again, there's a dangling carrot. In November, we know there will be states that will legalize recreational and they will legalize medical. And there will be headlines about it and they'll be talking about it on CNBC. November's a long ways away, but that's a dangling carrot. So if the broader market has bottomed and somehow finds its way back towards an all-time high in the coming months, I do believe that the cannabis bottom is in as well. That being said, it's much more likely to be in on a name like TLRY that would have to drop over 50% or would have to drop 50% to get back to our lows. Whereas if we look at some of our US names, MSOS only needs to drop 15% to get back to those lows. So not everybody is created equal now with how this move has played out. But hopeful longer term bulls are hoping that we've reached a cycle bottom, because we've seen these cycles before where we see massive despair and end of the world, and then a massive run up, and then massive despair into the world. The cryptocurrency space, I've been only trading it for 4.5 years. It's done it multiple times where we see these cycle shifts, euphoria to despair, to euphoria to despair. So bulls are hoping that the despair cycle is coming to a conclusion, but in my opinion, it's all based on the broader market and whether the bottom is set. So TLRY at this point, we can say anything above 725 is an hourly higher low. As long as the bulls keep putting in hourly higher lows, they're going to keep control of this move, and we won't have topped out yet. There are a number of things bears are looking for. Bears are looking for a clear level to play off of. Our next clear resistance would be 994. We'll just call it 10 psychological. And they're also looking for the potential of a top fishing play. So what I mean by a top fishing play is if I'm not looking to be aggressive as a bear, I look for a big pullback. Let's just say we dropped right now back to 770. Still an hourly high or low, anything above 725. Still an hourly uptrend. Bulls, aggressive bulls are looking to buy that dip. 5-minute oversold conditions, looking for an hourly high or low, they're looking to buy there. I sit through that and say, okay, that's a big pullback. I didn't make any money bearish there, but I know I'm still scouting an hourly high or low. And next time we bounce, because of the size of this pullback, I will make a bearish entry. I will put my stop over the high. And if we confirm the hourly downtrend, then our top is set for now and I nailed it. So a patient bear waits to have a level to play off of and looks for a scenario like that. If we gap up open on Monday, I'll be looking short because we know gap ups are for selling and for shorting, just like it was today in terms of profit-taking bulls, pull back, and then we look to buy the dip. I mean, that's a play that goes all the way back. If you've been watching my videos when I was covering the cannabis boom in 2017, 2018, we were all over that play day after day with just sell the gap up, reload oversold conditions, do it all over again. And it was a thing of beauty. And it's just really nice. It's nostalgia to have these kinds of moves back in the sector. And that's where we stand. So resistance, again, that 994 level, high after hours, 871. The bulls tried to get a pump going like yesterday, but unable to do so. We could tell that the bulls were shaping up for the pump into the end of the day yesterday. And again, GME and these Reddit names have shown us the way, and they've given us a framework and clues to look for. And I'm very fortunate, I'm very grateful for that because as I talked about in the video yesterday, again, I know it's easy in hindsight, but talked about the video yesterday, talking about the swing position that I was in because of how it was shaping up. Tried the same thing today, but sold. Didn't see what I liked. It's Friday afternoon, and we're just puttering around here. So I would rather start with a fresh, clean slate on Monday and take it from there. It's been a really good week, and I don't want to push my luck. So I currently I do have a core half swing position in MSOS, but other than that, I have no cannabis exposure right now after a ton of trading this week. So that's where we stand for TLRY. TLRY right now is the benchmark for the entire sector. The way that I trade, if I'm trading tech sector or semiconductors, I'm watching QQQ as my ETF guide. And I know all individual names are going to be doing something very similar to QQQ. Some will be stronger, some will be weaker, but that's my benchmark guide. With the cannabis sector, TLRY is your benchmark guide. Some names are weaker, USMJ. Some names, no one's stronger, but some names are trying to keep up, CGC, ACB, Cron. But the volume, the dollar volume and the attention, it's clear, it's TLRY. Why is it TLRY? I think it has something to do with the run up to $300 and the fact that it was an IPO and big money made insane amounts of money in both directions on this name. And then we had the merger with APHA. And so two high volume names combined together. So I think that both of those factors have a lot to do with it. But again, I just imagine that myself as a professional trader, as a tiny little fish, and knowing that there's whales of professional traders and groups and hedge funds, and they are looking at this name as their instrument for capital gains. They don't care what's on the shelves. They don't care what the balance sheet says. They're here for the video game aspect of how markets trade, and so am I. And that's how I view it. And that's how they view it. And that's why all this attention is on TLRY, and that's why, in my opinion, until the MSOs uplist, it's going to remain the case. And you're going to see continued frustration out of fundamental investors that are on the OTC when all the action is with the high volume and high liquidity on the NASDAQ. Because again, people are trading with position sizes on TLRY that you cannot do on any of these USMJ names. You can't market order $150,000 on TCNNF without, number one, it taking a long time to fill and it just fills in chunks on the way up and it walks the ask up. Meanwhile, you do it on TLRY, you're filled in an instant, you maybe get a penny of slippage. It's a night and day difference trading these different instruments. CGC, gap filled, so we pulled back a bit more significantly. But again, it's a night and day difference here as well. CGC from the close on Wednesday has gone up maybe 24, 25%, and TLRY has gone up double that. So TLRY has the attention. And again, in the video yesterday, I talk about how I recognize I chose the wrong name. I looked for the USMJ names to be laggards, and I recognized, no, that is the wrong place to be. This is a TLRY-centric move. You need to be in TLRY. And that was an observation that saved me a lot of frustration. So same thing, though. Anything above the low of today on CGC? Well, actually, no, it's not the same thing. It's different. We got a different setup. We pulled back very significantly from the high of after hours. We've got an hourly equilibrium here. The low of today is a higher low. Anything under 950 is a lower high. Bulls must hold. 777 key support. This is a nice and clear hourly equilibrium that we're going to be watching to tighten up into tomorrow or Monday. And right now, TLRY is dumping after hours as people realize, man, the pump's not coming like it did yesterday. Maybe I want to take some risk off into the weekend. I don't expect it to be a massive pullback, but that was my mindset as well. Cron. So Cron on the hourly time frame, same thing, tightening range. And again, you go to TLRY, it's not a tightening range. We broke to the higher high. So it's a different setup. It's a stronger setup because we broke resistance. But Cron is scouting. If I'm looking at this range, I would be scouting an hourly lower high for a short. And then I would expect a higher low compared to 382. And I would expect to tighten up until we get a clear break either Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning. But it all depends on what the broader market does as well. But I do love the clarity of these hourly equilibriums on CGC and Cron. And I assume ACB and VFF and these other names. But I'm not going to look at all the names in the sector right now because it's Friday and I want to get off this machine. So looking at SNDL, this is another name. And again, it started in Reddit. I don't think 22-year-olds in the basement are pumping these names. I think that professional traders and hedge funds and institutions have social media metrics that they use to determine the names that they're going to play. And because these names did gain a footing on Reddit, that was just enough to have them be the focus. So, and that's still the case. So again, the SNDL move up from the close on Wednesday compared to other names up to the high, we went almost the same as TLRY, 47%. We didn't close as strong, but it's a much more comparative move here. And it is a tightening range here as well. Anything under 94 was just a lower high. Now we're pulling back. The key support is going to be 71. If we break the lows of today on Monday, top of the pump's in for at least the foreseeable short-term future, and it's going to make bears really comfortable. I'm potentially scouting a bearish entry. I always make more money bullish on these bounces than I do as a bear, but I'm scouting bearish for the potential of this momentum to fade. Just never want to get caught in a short squeeze, so always using a stop loss, clearly defined risk. MSOS, again, just extremely disappointing. There's no other way to cut it. You got to call it like it is. Extremely disappointing that this is the reaction that we get. I mean, we're trading under where we traded before the news a couple times up at the highs from Tuesday and Wednesday. If we drop down and break 1995, we lose the daily high or low, and it's a red flag that our weekly lower high may be set. Again, the weekly is our guide. In the last pump, the weekly was our guide as well. Anything under 2563 is just a weekly lower high that doesn't change a thing because we've been setting weekly lower highs this entire drop from all-time highs over the last 13 months. So anything under 2563 is just a weekly lower high. And that means we can go 15% on Monday and still just be looking for a weekly lower high. What will change in this sector, what will have me looking for long-term positions and a cycle bottom being set will be a weekly trend change, which means a big enough bull move to set up a trend change with a higher low and higher high, because MSOS has not seen a weekly higher low and higher high since all-time highs. So that would be a notable shift. Getting over these EMA resistances would be a notable shift. But right now, that's not happening. And again, if we see a new low hit in the broader market, I would say we're absolutely going to see it in this sector as well. CRLBF, pointed out in the video we did last time, I guess that was last weekend in the cannabis space, CRLBF was a lead bull. Why? Out of MSOs. Because it was holding this level and every other MSO dropped to a lower low there. And then you get the news about the buyout, CCHW was it? So now we're staying a lead MSO bull, but we're still tightening up the weekly. Low, top of the pump, higher low, anything under 818 is just a lower high. If we do not break 818, bulls don't prove a thing. TCNNF. So again, daily bull move, higher open here, a little bit of green today, but it's all about the weekly. That's the most important time frame easily, because we get these daily bounces. Again, we get everybody on one side of the boat bearish, and it flips a little bit, and the broader market bounces. But if it's going to stay flipped to the other side, you need the weekly trend change. Anything under 27.27 is just a lower high. We can go 30% from where we closed today and still just be looking for a weekly lower high. Earnings are going to come before we see any kind of changes on weekly timeframes in this sector. And the bulls need a bullish reaction to earnings to try and help create space for an eventual trend change attempt. So again, I'm not going to sugarcoat it because there's nothing to get excited about in the USMJ space right now. It's a long, slow road to change longer term trends, and the excitement is with the fast gains that we know to lock in. Again, on these moves, I am constantly locking in profit. I do not care at all about leaving money on the table because I know that eventually a top will be set, and if I am not locking in gains along the way, then I risk giving back 10% of those gains or more. So that's always my mindset as well. Lock in partial, get a risk-free position, give the bulls a chance to play out further, but at this point in time, bulls have so much proving to do. VRNOF, anything under 1310 is just a lower high. We can go 25% and still be in a weekly downtrend from here. Special check-in on the psychedelic names. We're going to see volatility come here soon. How do I know volatility is coming? Because it's a tightening weekly range. We've got our low, we've got our high, we've got a higher low. Anything under 148 is just a lower high. Sometime within the next 2 months, this tightening range is going to break one way or the other, and it will lead to an increase in volume and volatility. Maybe earnings will be a catalyst for a break. We can see the clear weekly EMA 12 resistance has been rejecting the price. And ATAI is very similar, tightened sideways, but weaker. So just something to keep an eye on, that this sector is getting very tight. And I am watching MNMD the most out of anybody in this sector because of the clarity of the weekly, and the dollar volume is a bit more significant here than most places. And again, it's just a sector that I'm keeping an eye on. I know one day there will be FOMO, euphoria, all-time highs in this sector when there's some kind of political catalyst or something, you know, whatever the social media hype behind it, whenever that happens. So I know to pay attention to the sector for when that happens, but I am not going to establish positions before that happens. I'm going to wait for that momentum and have the wind at my back. And again, the best example that I can give is in the cryptocurrency space when we hit some really good looking birds out here doing their mating dance with some big yellow wings. I don't even know what those are. Distracted. So the best example that I can give is Bitcoin, the CVID bottom. Bounced 250%. I missed that entire bounce because when that happened, I was in cash and I was just, I'm not giving back any money and I'll wait till things sort itself out. And so I missed 250% off the low. I then saw daily equilibrium shaping up. I was like, I know how to play daily equilibriums. Okay. Clearly defined risk reward. I made my bull entry 250% off the low, and we then went 500% higher. The moral of the story is I don't need to catch the bottom. I just need to be in the right positioning for when momentum arrives. And that's when you're in green positions right away, and it's a really fun game if you're looking bullish. So that's my mindset in all of these sectors as well. I don't need to nail the bottom. It's nice if you do. I'll make a couple attempts at it. But, you know, I'll buy MSOS 40% off its low if the momentum is there to be looking for further gains from there. So again, just a little insight into my mindset. All right, so trades today on TLRY. I traded TLRY poorly this morning, just in terms of what I expect from myself. So I had a big swing position. It was a big day today. And I sold all of that. You know, I sold some after hours, I sold some pre-market, I sold the rest right when the bell rang. So all out, knowing that we're looking for a gap up into some profit taking, and I'm scouting oversold conditions. So from there, I'm watching the real short-term moves to say, can the bulls keep pressure on here and keep this squeeze going? And so I sell everything, and I watch this 1 minute candle, and when this 1 minute candle breaks bull at 816, I make an entry, and I put my stop under the low of the day. And say, all right, bulls, let's get over 849, the high of after hours. Let's keep this run going. and we broke the low of the day. I stop out. I take that small loss. And then I had another trade, I forget where, that I was just chopping around. And I gave back a little bit of profit on the morning. My ideal kind of bounce is a straight waterfall drop to oversold conditions, and then you get a solid, not a V-shaped bounce, but V-shape enough that you're very quickly profitable and you can very quickly position to be risk-free. And this drop on TLRY was not that. It was a slow bleed grind where the RSI levels just kept cooling off. The 2-minute RSI, from the high of the day, didn't hit oversold until 725. And that was a 12% drop. So I want the waterfall drops if I'm going to be aggressive playing a bounce. And if we're cooling off RSI levels on the way down, then I am much less interested. So I got chopped up on the morning. I gave back some profit. And I just told myself, you got to stop trading because you don't have an edge right now. And you don't have clarity. And you're going to get back all of your overnight swing gains unless you lock it up. So I stopped trading TLRY. And I just watched and was patiently observing. I know we're looking for a bottom to be found. And the number one thing that I'm doing is watching the broader market when I'm watching individual names because there's a massive impact in correlation. And at that point in time, QQQ got real weak. And I nailed this bear move on QQQ, which was real nice. Went real aggressive bearish, had my biggest SQQQ position of the week right there. And it went really well. But as that's happening, I'm saying, okay, this dump's taking place and we're getting pretty extreme here. The 5-minute RSI at that point was approaching the teens and it's a waterfall drop. That's the kind of bounce I like to play. Just a straight up waterfall drop. So I'm looking at TLRY while this is happening and I recognize a falling wedge. So the message I said before this was, I don't see anything I like. This is not a waterfall drop. This is not the kind of bounce that I like. And then I pulled up this falling wedge and say, okay, I like falling wedges. This gives me clarity. So falling wedge watch though, even though it's not the ideal drop that I want. And at that point in time, it was right here. And so I then start to make entries based off the assumption this is a falling wedge that's going to break bull when QQQ finds a bottom. Because again, at this point in time, I recognize the wedge pretty much at 11.16. And at that point in time for QQQ at 11.16, we are right here. So still dropping, but I know I'm scouting a QQQ bounce. I'm scouting a market-wide bounce, and that correlation, that momentum can help TLRY break this falling wedge bull. So I start adding, and I start to gain confidence. So in a starter for the wedge, must break 738, which is this little 1-minute lower high that, or 2-minute lower high that formed there. And then I added aggressively. And on my aggressive add, I had a tight stop. And wedges are tricky with stop losses because by definition, a falling wedge, you break support with a lack of follow through. And that's how you know that bears are tiring and a bounce is coming. In this instance, we fortunately held support and that kept me in my aggressive add. So here's my adds at, I bought a half position at 731 and then I doubled down. So I had 3 positions. This was twice the size at 732. And it was on these candles right here and saying, okay, now we must break 738. And then from there, I'm saying, QQQ, no bottom yet. Come on, QQQ, the bulls are ready here. So I see TLRY shaping up a 2-minute trend change attempt. I see it holding on. It's not dropping to lower lows while the rest of the broader market is dropping to lower lows. That tells me the bulls are playing some defense. Bears are running out of momentum. Come on, QQQ, put in a bottom. We're ready to go here. And then we turned around. The bull break took place at 11.24, and the QQQ bottom was found at 11.26, 11.28. And so there we go, resistance breaking. So 770 is the next level, and I'm slowly scaling out. So I start scaling out right away. Why? Because I'm in a real aggressive position. And so if I start scaling out, even if it's a fake out, I'm going to be A-okay. I won't have a care in the world. Because if I have an average at 732, let's say, and I sell a third of that at 742, my average is right now pretty much the low of the day. And I can just stick my stop under the low of the day and I will have a taco loss is what I call it. Miss out on what it would cost to buy some tacos. No, it's just a tiny little loss that doesn't mean anything to me. So I scale out into this move enough to then be comfortable. And again, I could look at this and say, oh man, if I held that whole position into the end of the day, I could have made this much money. That thought never enters my head. because the only reason I go aggressive is knowing that I'm going to scale out to protect myself fairly quickly to ensure that I am then in a risk-free trade. And I then let the rest of that position go for the rest of the day. And it was a really nice finding of the bottom. So one other trade from there, I traded TLRY again. I mean, I must have had 30 orders total. So it was, let's see, next one. All right, I just got to find the spot on the chart where this was at. Right here. So we got to a point where I said, okay, bulls are proving enough to me that I'm just buying 5-minute dips. I'm buying 5-minute consolidation, and as long as we keep setting 5-minute higher lows every consolidation, I'm going to keep buying 5-minute consolidation. So we dropped down here after a double top, or we broke the high today by 2 pennies, and we dropped down. And we say, okay, are we going to have a hard rejection from the double top and pull back notably, or are we going to bull flag and then break it? So I see we hit a bottom at 817, 818, 817, 817, 818, all these little candles. I clearly see bulls are playing defense, and I'm staring at the bid and the ask when that's happening. Every single time there's a bid at 820 and it breaks and we enter the 18s, instantly we're back up with a bid of 820. Someone was standing there and defending these levels and putting shares on 820 every single time it broke. So my observation in the chat room is, did you see how every time we dipped under 820, it lasted for 1 second with then quick buying to stick the bid back at 820? That shows bulls are protecting. They're playing defense, and I went aggressive after seeing that. So I got filled at 821 and 822 right here. If we had broken under 820 bid and stayed under it, that would have been a red flag for me and I would have bailed. But again, if I'm going aggressive, I'm looking to sell partial position real quick, which is exactly what I did. I sold a partial position at 827. So now my break even is, let's say that 822 position, I sold it at 827, so I gained 5 cents. So my break even is 815. I can stick my stop under 817 and be risk-free. I get myself in risk-free trades very, very often. And again, I could look at it and say, I left money on the table, or I could look at it and say, I didn't have a care in the world. I placed my stop loss and I let the trade try and play out. So in that instance, we ended up getting nice follow through and another nice little win there. So again, I did swing some after hours, didn't see what I liked, exited everything, fresh, clean slate on Monday. So what I will be looking for on Monday, if we gap up open, I will be looking to play a 5-minute oversold bounce, looking for an hourly high or low with tons of space for it to form, anything above 725. I will want to see a waterfall drop. If I don't, then I won't go aggressive looking to play a bounce. I'll watch to see if a falling wedge shapes up like today. If we open lower, I may look for a top fish short. I won't short TLRY. I'm going to short a peer that is weaker. I'm done talking. It's Friday. Hope you enjoy your weekend. Hope this was useful. See you soon. Do good things.
These turkeys are battling. Listen to their wings. Gotta be a turkey bouncer. Fighting over this lady. They don't care about me at all. I could grab this turkey right now. They don't care about me at all. Break it up.